Hello, welcome back or welcome to my channel. It is Sunshine Lorena and this is my November wrap up. So guys, it is already December and you know this year has just flown by and I feel like I say this every single month that I'm wrapping up, but this is all the books I read in November and they were 12 books in total, so pretty good reading month. I would like to add there was a lot of audiobooks in November which helped contribute to that number. I feel like when we are throwing out there the number of books we read, we should like kind of specify like length and type of book, because like some people are like, I've read 20 books, and then people feel like pressure like, oh, I should be reading 20 books too, and you shouldn't. You should be reading the amount of books that is right for you. But also those people don't tell you the number of pages, they're short, they're long, they use audiobooks that help things, and that's a small slight rant at the start of this wrap up. But anyway guys, let's just get into it. So this wasn't the first book that I read in November, it was the last one I finished in November, but I still need to import the details into Storygraph so my numbers are off, so I'm going to cover it now so I don't forget to mention this one at all. And that is Teer List, a novel by A.O. DeForge. Now the author contacted me on Instagram and asked me if I wanted to read the book. She shared the synopsis with me and I liked the sound of it and I was really intrigued, so I was like, why not? I'd like to read it. So it just came out now at the beginning of December, so it's available in all the usual kind of places. You can get the physical book or an ebook, and let me tell you guys, I really enjoyed this. I'm going to just give you a quick brief synopsis, then we'll kind of get into my thoughts and feelings. So it is following a 24-year-old Lamy, and it's kind of following her own self-discovery and emotional kind of coming of age. We do actually get two timelines. So we have the 24-year-old Lamy's, and then we also have a past timeline when she was a child, and we're kind of piecing together her kind of backstory, what happened in the past, and kind of what's driving the current timeline. In this you also get a tale of interracial love as well in between. This is set in Nigeria, which I don't think I mentioned this before, but it is set in Nigeria, and it's written by a Nigerian author. So it weaves together two narrative threads that tend to themes of love, loss, fatherlessness, and identity with grace and confidence. So we are following the journey of Lamy Davies, who struggles to reunite her separated siblings and raise above her trauma. Lamy is obsessed with finding her little sister, whom she lost touch with at the age of 12 after her mother's passing. Her abusive father, in a heart-wrenching act, separated the children, placing them in care of different relatives. The youngest, Tutu, was sent to live with a distant aunt in England. In her quest to reunite her family, we see how Lamy's childhood experiences influence her interactions as an adult. Her story will offer hope to all readers who are battling to let go of past trauma in order to prevent it from spilling into the present and into the future. Guys, let me tell you, really enjoy this. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this, and it is a must read. If you can, I suggest you pick it up. When I was going through it, I kind of lost myself in the pages and was kind of in this constant kind of one of wanting to kind of pick it up and find out what was going on, what was happening, and really delving into the character that is Lamy. So yeah, like super intriguing. It was an inspiring read. The author did a great job with building our characters' backstories and developed them. I felt that there was a lot of growth throughout the book, so from where we started to where we ended up, so you get to see that. Obviously Lamy is the main character. We have some other characters involved, most of whom you will love, but there is one that you will definitely hate, because I did, and I was like, I don't like you, I do not like you. But the author does a great job of really helping you form opinions of these characters based on their actions and who they are. And Lamy is just a really interesting character. I really enjoyed how we had the two timelines and how it helped us piece together the story of what was going on while she was also looking in the present for her sister, for us to understand what happened in the past. Also, Nico, guys, loved Nico, and that's all I'm gonna say about it, but Nico, loved him. But yes, 4 stars, really enjoy it. I really enjoyed this one. I highly recommend you pick it up. It's not one that you're probably going to see that many people speaking about, with it being an indie book, but guys, recommend. Okay, then the first book I did actually finish in November was Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kwan, and this was her first book departing from her well-known fantasy genre that she normally writes in. I've seen this being described as like thriller, literary thriller, with some like mystery vibes. It is very much all over the place kind of categorized. But this one, yes, I picked this up at the beginning of the month. It was in my vlog, the 48-hour readathon. If you didn't see it, you can watch it and see my in the moment opinions. But in this one, the main premise is kind of a satire, kind of commentary take on the publishing industry. This book is kind of surrounding kind of two main-ish characters. We have June Hayward, or she ends up going by Juniper Song later on in the book, and Athena Liu, and they were supposed to be rising stars when they were coming out of university. Athena Liu has had this fantastic writing career, whereas Juniper Song, her book kind of flopped, didn't do that well, and she has really been struggling with her writing. So June ends up witnessing Athena's death, which was a freak accident, and she acts on impulse and ends up stealing a manuscript from Athena. So June ends up editing said manuscript and then passing it off as her own, and then the book kind of delves into this kind of theme of, does it matter who tells the story? Because I've not told you, but the book that Athena wrote got to do with during the war, and it to do with Chinese labourers. So it kind of looks at this theme of who deserves to kind of tell these stories. It kind of looks at that, and then obviously the success of Juniper kind of benefiting off an author who was an ethnic minority in stealing her work. But yeah, it kind of looks like so many questions around publishing, the diversity of publishing, racism and cultural appropriation as well, and kind of this, it's a really good book. I enjoyed it. It was the first one though that I didn't give her 5 stars. It was 4 stars, guys. Really did enjoy it. But however, all the other books that I've read all of our other books and I give them 5 stars. This one was 4 stars. I did really enjoy it. I hated Juniper Song, but I have to say the writing is really well done. The fact that I could completely hate and like not like the main character, the person's POV that we're following, for her to like keep me wanting to turn the pages and find out more. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad I finally picked this up because everyone had been speaking about it. But yes, I think it is a really good piece and commentary on the publishing industry. Then I read also in that vlog A Free Dog Problem, which is number 2 in the Her Majesty the Queen Investigates series by S.J. Bennett. In this series, the first one was Wins or Not. This is the second one, like I said. Essentially, the Queen secretly solves mysteries and murders, and has been doing for years and years and years, with very few people actually know what's going on. And the first one, we introduced to a new secretary, and then how she obviously finds out about this mystery solving and kind of get brought into the fold about how it all works. The second one, again, there has been another murder, which the Queen obviously is going to investigate. This is post-referendum, and the nation is divided at this time. And the last thing the Queen needs is any more problems to worry about. But when an oil painting of the royal yacht Britannica, first given to the Queen in the 1960s, shows up unexpectedly in a Royal Navy exposition, she begins to realise that something is up. When a body is found in the palace swimming pool, she finds herself once again in the middle of an investigation which has more twists and turns than she could ever have suspected. With her trusted secretary Rosie by her side, the Queen is determined to solve the case. But will she be able to do it before the murder strikes again? And I just find these really, it's like a cute, cozy murder mystery. I kind of like the vibe that like the Queen is the person that's solving it. However, no one knows that she actually does solve it, so it's all very secretive, like I said. And I ended up giving this 3 stars. Enjoyable, fast, quick pace. I listened to this on audiobook. I enjoyed it. Then we're getting into quite a bit of non-fiction here, guys, because it was non-fiction November, so I did go heavy on the memoirs, and I read 3 memoirs that were released this year. The first one being The Woman in Me by Britney Spears, which is a huge one. Now actually, before I get into the rest of these memoirs, in case you don't know, if you're new around here, I don't rate memoirs because it kind of feels like I'm rating their personal story. So you won't see me giving a rating. If I do give a rating, it's because the storytelling was exceptional and the storytelling's done really well, and there was something about it that I would give it 5 stars, and that's the only exception. However, in general, I don't, because I don't feel right rating people's life stories. So I picked this up on audio from Everend, and it is, Britney does like the first intro, which was nice that we got a little of an introduction from her, but the actual main audiobook is done by Michelle Williams. No, not the Destiny's Child singer, guys, because when I first saw it I was just like, it's not her. But yes, Britney does do the intro, and you know, she does essentially explain that it's just something that she couldn't do, which I completely understand, that her story is still very much emotional. So this covers from her childhood through her career all the way up to now. She takes you through the conservatorship as well. It's not that long, so the audiobook is only 5.5 hours, so it's under 300 pages, the book. So I did see somebody's review that they did say it felt like the first bit of her career. It was very much like a speed Wikipedia flipping through it quite quick. I think it's great that she finally got to tell her story and reveal what she wanted to reveal. I do feel like there's definitely more to her story, because it definitely felt there was bits missing, or things weren't delved into that deeply. Considering that she was in a conservatorship for 13 years, I was expecting a little bit more to be discussed in those times, but again, it might still be too raw for her to go through that. And there's a chance that in the future she'll release a second book and maybe delve into it deeper. But I think it was really interesting seeing all these bits and pieces that we had no idea going on, and seeing things from her perspective of what was actually really happening. So yes, I think it was a very powerful memoir, and I'm just glad that she finally got to tell us her story. The next one I picked up was Paris, the Memoir by Paris Hilton, and again, no rating, guys. This is following, the Paris takes us through again her whole life from childhood all the way up to now. She does have a heavy focus on those schools that she was in, which are the residential schools where like bad kids kind of got sent, but actually there's a lot of abuse going on, which is something that she has been an advocate for the last few years. So she does delve into that part of her life when she was in those schools and what actually happened. There is a lot more to Paris than what we think. I think we have this like idea of this heiress, like she's blonde and she has this baby voice, which is not her true voice. I forgot to say, she also reads this memoir. She has an audiobook for it, because I listen to audiobook, which I think when the author is able to do that, I think it's really great, because you do really feel their story. But Paris has went through a lot in her life, guys. She's really went through a lot in her life, and she's come out on the other side. I think it was, again, good to see a side of her that we had never seen, to actually know what was going on behind the scenes, you know, when she was the 2000s it girl, one of the it girls being followed around by paparazzi, and what was actually really going on in her life and where she's gotten to now, and also at the very end how she, you know, when she comes into motherhood. So I did really enjoy it. Again, it's another one I recommend, and learn a little bit more about Paris. Then I read Bad Mormon by Heather Gay. Now when I picked this up, I had no idea that she was a real housewife. I was just kind of intrigued by the fact that she was going to be obviously speaking about her life, as you do with memoirs, but it was going to be covering her like leaving the Mormon church, and kind of also how her life was when she was in the Mormon church. And yes, I find that super interesting. I think it's because it's not something we see much in the UK, and it's very much an American thing. I always find those stories really interesting, and I did enjoy this one. Again, she does the audiobook. This one was 8 hours, so it's a bit longer than Britney's memoir. I did enjoy it. Like I said, no idea that she was a housewife, so I didn't have any kind of expectations of who she was. I just thought that it was a very interesting story following someone who was born and raised as a Mormon and then leaving the church. Then another memoir, guys. No, right, this one I did give a rating, and I gave it 5 stars. Now this one was The Sound of Gravel, memoir by Ruth Weiner. Now this isn't a celebrity one, this is just a woman who wrote her life story. I gave it 5 stars because the storytelling, the way she tells her story, and you just, I don't know what it was just something about it, the way that her story was actually told, and the ending as well. Like I feel like there could be more as well in this. Like she definitely could have written more, because let me give you the synopsis, it might be easier. So this is following her. Ruth Weiner was the 39th of her father's 42 children, growing up on a farm in a rural Mexico where authorities turn a blind eye to the practices of her community. Ruth lives in a ramshackle house without indoor plumbing or electricity. At church, preachers teach that God will punish the wicked by destroying the world, and that women can only ascend to heaven by entering into polygamous marriages and giving birth to as many children as possible. After Ruth's father, the man who had been the founding prophet of the colony, is brutally murdered by his brother in a bid for church power, her mother remarries, becoming the second wife of another faithful congregant. In need of government assistance and supplemental income, Ruth and her siblings are carted back and forth between Mexico and the United States, where her mother collects welfare and her stepfather works a variety of odd jobs. Ruth comes to love the time she spends in the States, realizing that perhaps the community in which she was born is not the right one for her. As Ruth begins to doubt her family's beliefs and questions her mother's choices, she struggles to balance her fierce love for her siblings and her determination to forge a life for herself. Recounted from the innocent and hopeful perspective of a child, The Sound of Gravel is the remarkable true story of a girl fighting for peace and love. So this, like I said, is super impactful. It does very much focus on her childhood, and to the point where she kind of escapes escapes, and we get a kind of like an epilogue where we see what her life then became later on. So there is like a whole chunk post escaping the cult where we don't see. So that's what I'm saying, there could be like a whole other thing. So it very much focuses on her time in the essentially what is a cult. I think the family, they were originally kind of Mormons, and then they kind of broke off and did their own thing, with her father being the prophet. And we kind of follow through the story of her telling about her siblings, what her life was like growing up there, the brief times that she did have in the States as well. It's really a heartbreaking story, and to see what she went through, and also the thinking of the other people there as well, because obviously there's certain things that she speaks to people about, which I'm going to tell you because you'll need to read it as part of her story, and to see how they are and how they're just blindly okay with everything that's going on. So super interesting, and to see how she copes, how things go on, how things were for her family, things that happened to her and her siblings. And it really is a really impactful novel, and she went through so much at such a young age, and I'm glad that she got out of it and onto the other side. Then I read The Minders by John Mars. This was one that I'd carried over from October into November, and I finally finished it. This is one of his Black Mirror thriller type books. Essentially, we're in a time where, you know, people are trying to hack governments and steal government secrets and information. The UK government decides to take it completely offline and essentially implant it into these people, 5 people called the Miners. Now, no one knows about this apart from a very few select people within the Minder program. The Minders are supposed to live for 5 years with this kind of implanted in them until a point where it will disintegrate, but in the meantime it gives the government time to find a different way of being able to store this in a safe way with it being hacked. These Minders are people who all very much wanted to leave their lives. The thing is, to be a Minder, you have to leave everything behind, you take on a new identity, and you have to very much live 5 years not really having any attachment into anyone. The government will pay for everything. You have a card, every single thing is paid for. You do need to keep zero kind of online presence because they don't want people finding out, and there's only one website you're supposed to go to, which is a forum where they will like a special message if they need to recall you and there is a problem. Once the 5 years are over, again, they're gonna get money, all the money they could ever want, and they can go off and live their life exactly how they want to do it. The thing is, one of these Minders cannot be trusted, guys, because each of them do have their own secrets, but one of them in particular we should not trust, as they're trying to protect their own secret. And that's all I'm going to tell you about this one. I did really enjoy this. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I have read The Passengers by him, and it is mentioned here. There's a lot of the elements of like the DNA matching, which is in his thriller book The One, which I've not read. I don't know if they should be read in order, if it gave any kind of anything away, but anyway, I do like his Black Mirror-esque thrillers. They're really interesting, touching on great topics. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed The Passengers when I read it. I do recommend, if you like thrillers and you like the Black Mirror vibes, then this is one you should pick up. Then back to non-fiction, guys. I picked up The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy by Molly Kendall and Elizabeth Kendall, and this was the pick for November for Chloe Reed's Books Crime Scene Corners book. And from that title, I'm pretty sure you can guess it is her life with Ted Bundy, one of the girlfriends with Ted Bundy, and then her daughter as well has her own kind of, at the end, an additional chapter. I think this was added in after like they started doing the TV series and stuff, for her to tell her side and kind of how she was affected by her mum going out and dating Ted Bundy. So it is detailing Elizabeth's 6-year relationship with Ted Bundy, and it's all in the lead up as well, involving the trial, etc., and everything that she goes through. It is really interesting, and also I felt bad for her at points, because like, I mean, she tried. She's like, something isn't right, and she tried, and she was like brushed aside, guys. The police, they were like, no, it's fine, we've checked, it's cool. So you know, there's times where you feel really bad for her. You need to read the whole thing to see her story. Didn't give it a rating obviously because it is a memoir again, but it was really interesting to see it from how her life was with him and what exactly happened. Then I picked up The Good Immigrant by The Good Immigrant, and this involved 21 authors, so I'm not gonna list list all of the names here. It involved 21 authors from different ethnic minorities in the UK, all doing essays and kind of sharing their different stories. So this one I gave a 4-star, and I listened to this in audiobook, and each of the authors did actually read their own parts as well, which was really interesting. So how does it feel to be constantly regarded as a potential threat, strip searched at every airport, or be told that as an actress the part you most fitted to play is the wife of a terrorist? How does it feel to have words from your native language misused, misappropriated and used aggressively towards you? How does it feel to hear a child of colour say in a classroom that stories can only be about white people? How does it feel to go home to India when your home is really London? Is it like to feel like you've always have to be an ambassador for your race? How does it feel to always tick other? So it brings together 21 Black, Asian and minority ethnic voices emerging in Britain today. Explores why immigrants come to the UK, why they stay, and what it's meant to be other in a country that doesn't seem to want you, doesn't truly accept you. However many generations you've been here, but still needs you for its diversity and monitoring forms. This is really good. There are so many, with them being 21 authors, you get so many different varieties of stories, different communities that you wouldn't have maybe necessarily thought about what's going on for them, and also the perspective from the authors. It covers different parts of their lives as well. So there's some authors who will pick up things that happened in childhood and kind of how that situation was, somewhere in their adulthood, and it was just really interesting to see all these different perspectives. Then I picked up In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. Yes, she is the 4th one author. I didn't know she'd written other books. I just came across this when it was the Goodreads and Goodreads Choice Awards. I saw it, I was like, oh wait, that's her. And then I found this on Kindle Unlimited. I actually just ended up listening to the audio version. I didn't actually read it, and I gave this 2.5 stars, guys. Like, and the best way, my reaction after finishing was just meh. This meh. Like, I don't have too much to say about this. Like, just very meh. So I'll give you the synopsis. So we are following Izzy Astor. She gets on a plane to go home. She isn't expecting much. It's the usual holiday travel experience, busy, crowded and stressful. Then she spots her seatmate, who is anything but ordinary, Nate Phelan. Sports, dark hair, blue eyes and a deliciously rugged charm that Izzy can't resist. Their connection is undeniable. Izzy never believed in destiny before, but she does now. Just 90 seconds after takeoff, their plane goes down in the Missouri River. Their lives change, they change. Nate goes on to a career in the military while Izzy finds her way into politics. Despite a few chance encounters over the years, the timing never feels right. Then comes a high-stakes reunion in Afghanistan where Nate is tasked with protecting Izzy's life. He'll do anything to keep her safe and everything to win her heart. So that synopsis sounds pretty good, right? What actually happens in this book, you have 2 timelines. You're following the past timeline, so it starts with the plane one, and then obviously as they meet and their relationship kind of goes back and forth over a few years. You then have the present timeline, which is in Afghanistan, where she just turns up as part of like she ends up going there for work, and he ends up being tasked as being her bodyguard and trying to help her. And there's obviously this animosity, and you don't know what happened because we're still getting the part where they met, and you kind of follow through the story in the past and the present of what happened. Just like I said, it was just very meh. I feel like the stuff in Afghanistan wasn't that well covered. Like that, I feel like I'm no expert on war, but I feel like that wasn't done that well, that part, and not covered that greatly. And like I said, just very meh about the storyline. I didn't believe anything between them. I wasn't like, oh, I love this couple, they're amazing. Just very meh. That's my only reaction, meh. Terrible review, but just meh. Then the last one of the month I read was Leila. Again, I picked this up on Kindle Unlimited, and this is by Colleen Hoover. This is my second Colleen Hoover. The first one I read was Verity. This one I've given 1 star, guys. So I'll give you the synopsis and then I'll go a little bit into my thoughts and feelings, but this is possibly the worst book that I have read this year. So Lead meets Leila. He's convinced he'll spend the rest of his life with her until an unexpected attack leaves Leila fighting for her life. After weeks in the hospital, Leila recovers physically, but the emotional and mental scarring has altered the woman Leeds fell in love with. In order to put their relationship back on track, Leeds whisks Leila away to bed and breakfast where they first met. Once they arrive, Leila's behaviour takes a bizarre turn, and that's just one of the many inexplicable occurrences. Feeling distant from Leila, Leeds soon finds solace in Willow, another guest of the B&B with whom he forms a connection through their shared concerns. and his curiosity for Willow grows. His decision to help her find answers puts him in direct conflict with Leila's well-being. Leigh soon realizes he has to make a choice because he can't help both of them, but if he makes the wrong choice, it could be detrimental for them all. So Leeds, I didn't like him. He is the male protagonist. We get the entire book from his POV, which, how the story turns out, he is the best person to have the POV in the story, but I didn't like it. I didn't like him. He was a little bit much. Like, sometimes I find with some romance novels, like things go too quickly between like the two characters, and like it's just all a bit too much of like the pace that they're going. I'm like, this wouldn't happen in real life. Maybe there might be that one like couple that like, yeah, it works out, but like doesn't normally work out like that. I didn't like him. I didn't like the connection between the two of them. I didn't like the twist in this. I didn't like it, guys. I just didn't like it. Like I said, I didn't like the characters, didn't like the twist, just no. And I'm concerned now because I have 2 Colleen Hoover books on my shelves that I physically own, and that's Ugly Love and It Ends With Us. And I'm concerned because Verity, I gave 3 stars, which, you know, not a bad book, but I wasn't like 5 stars like everyone's raving about. Admittedly, Leila on Goodreads is one of the lower rated books of hers, so I don't think that many people liked it either. It's a bit hit or miss with it, but I'm concerned because I have those other 2 to pick up and read, and It Ends With Us I'm definitely going to be reading in the next few months because like the film is coming out at some point. So concerned, guys, concerned, because like maybe Colleen Hoover just isn't for me. Maybe she isn't for me, and that's fine, but I have those 2 books and I need to give it a go, so just a little bit concerned for me. But anyway, that is it. That is all the books that I read in November. Please let me know if you've read any of them, what your thoughts were on them. If you agree with me, hit that subscribe button. I am posting content every single day in December up until Christmas, so there is lots of bookish and vlog content coming your way. Thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you next one. Bye!